Okay, if you have not listened to or watched the piece I did, there was a behind the curtain playlist or piece segment, whatever you want to call it, about online criticism, then I'm going to reference that a little bit here. So maybe you want to watch or listen to that. It's a little bit longer. I don't even know how long this will be though, or whatever. So I don't know. Other ones I think about a half hour or something like that. But they are both related. So the reason I thought about this talk about a justice complex and talking about that and kind of figuring it out a little more is because of this online criticism that I got for one of my videos on Reddit, and I explained that in the other piece about handling online criticism. I don't remember what I'll title it yet. Something like that though. But yeah, it just it's something that I've had on my mind. I haven't had it on my mind very much, but it's something that every once in a while I say it out loud to someone, like, yeah, I have a justice complex. That's why X, Y, or Z. That's why I feel this way, or that's why I feel that way. I don't really know. I haven't really looked up what a justice complex is. I actually tried to today in a effort to be a little more prepared and do some research, and all I could find was like a physical place, like a complex, like a building, and I was like, what? This is not what I'm looking for. But the term was introduced to me by someone talking about somebody else. They weren't talking about me. They didn't think anything about it had any relevance to me at all. And I was like, wow, that kind of sums up a little bit of how I feel about stuff and maybe why I feel that way about certain things and how I just feel in general. And yeah. And then I was thinking about it this morning because I had this negative criticism that wasn't really criticism, it was just kind of trolling, and it really got under my skin. And then I started thinking about, like, yeah, I want to respond to them because what they're saying, like, they're under the impression of this thing that isn't true, when really I was like, no, they're just trolling. Like, it's not that they don't believe, like, whatever. They have this misinterpretation, or they're misinterpreting and like, trying to twist it in a certain way. And I'm like, but that's not me, that's not who I am. And that kind of relates to this whole thing of, like, having this quote-unquote justice complex, that I have a really difficult time when people get away with stuff sometimes, because that's the other thing. I felt like I had to respond to them and set them straight, and I abandoned that really quickly because I really didn't think it was going to be healthy for me or a good use of my time. And so, but it still irks me a bit that they think what they think. And there's no way for me to change their mind, even if I did spend hours arguing back and forth with them, even though there's nothing to really argue about. It's like, hey, this is my purpose and my intent in doing this thing, and you can't really argue that, so the argument's kind of done. What you're saying is negated, game over. But people like that will just continue going on and going on and going on. So, but yeah, that's what kind of sparked this whole thing, and I was just thinking, like, is that really appropriate that I have a justice complex? But I mean, maybe. It's really difficult for me to get over when someone doesn't get their just desserts. However, the things that I was thinking about this morning was that, well, I'm the one who deems what justice is, right? Like, that's really obvious, but it's not like, I mean, I break laws, I go 10 kilometers over the speed limit, whether it's parking or whatever, like, there's things that I definitely do. I jaywalk, I've done way worse things than that have nothing to do with breaking laws, and we're talking about justice. We're not just talking about the legalities that are present in our, city, province, country, whatever. So when I think about it in that bigger way, I'm like, okay, this still makes sense because I determine what justice is and what it isn't. So therefore, I still feel like maybe that label can still represent, just as an easy reference for someone to be like, oh yeah, like it's just why I just use it when I talk about why sometimes it takes me a long time just to get over something, or how sometimes it's just really concentrated. Like, it's not like I'm thinking about it for days and days and days or whatever. It's the fact that I'm really upset about it right at that moment. And I'm like, man, I can't believe this guy. Like, it happened just the other day. Like 2 days ago? 2 days ago. Where somebody was parked. Was it 2 days ago? Yes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Why would it matter? Somebody was, like, parked behind my vehicle, and they were blocking the driveway, and my roommate was not home, and he could not get like into the driveway that way. And I just like went off, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. Like it's 9 p.m. at night, so you can't even call parking enforcement. No one's going to come deal with this, and because no one's going to deal with it, therefore it enables them to do it again and again and again, because they're not going to get any repercussions, because they don't care about the right thing to do. They're parking there because it's convenient for them. And I was just thinking about all these things that could happen, because that's what I do. I'm like, what if, like, if that was my roommate's parking spot or my parking spot or whoever's in the driveway, and you couldn't access it, and I mean, therefore you had to park somewhere else for the night. It's minus 40. You don't have a long enough cord now to plug into the house for your block heater, and then he wakes up in the morning and then he can't get to work or a final exam or whatever it is, like, because some idiot just wants to park there, and because we don't have a system in our city in place to deal with things like that. I'm like, if I should be able to there should be like a towing company, is what I was thinking. This would have been a 2-cent rent back in the day, so you're getting it now. There should be like a towing company or a certain number you can call to have someone towed. You have your address on your license. You say, I live at this address, and this person is blocking my driveway, and I can't get in, and it should be towed at the person's expense. It should be that simple. And we don't have something like that here in Lethbridge. We just don't. I've had many complaints to the city about parking enforcement and how it takes them forever to get anywhere. By the time they get there, the people are usually gone. There was only one time, it happened a lot when I lived in this apartment building on the west side, where people were parking in our spots all the time, because the apartment buildings, there was 3 of them in like this complex, and there was no visitor parking. They had to park on the street, and they didn't want to, so they would just park close to the door, and my parking spot was very close to the door of our building, and people would park in there all the time. One time, parking enforcement actually got there on time, didn't give them a ticket. Like, they talked to the people, and the people moved their vehicle. And I was just like, what? Like, if there's not a big enough repercussion, some people don't, like, because they won't listen. They're like, oh, I guess we can just park here whenever we want, and then if someone shows up, we'll move it then. In the meantime, I had to park somewhere else. I had to park on the street, because there's no visitor parking. So I had to park on the street and walk to my building, and it's like, that's part of my rent. I pay to use that spot. Like, it's whatever. So anyway, it's that type of thing that really irks me. And like I said, I don't think about it for days and days and days, but I get a really concentrated like flash of upsetness, of frustration in that moment of just being like, this is ridiculous. Like, why is this thing? Like, it just goes off. And like I said, I just think about all the possibilities, and it's just like, if this person isn't. This sounds like a really teachery thing and whatever, and maybe that's just coincidence, but I want to educate in a way. So if I'm given an opportunity to educate, that's why I go to all these scenarios of like, this could happen very easily. It could happen if this happened in winter, if, my roommate's car didn't have like a great battery, if whatever he needed to plug it in and he couldn't, or like I said, if it was me, it doesn't matter who, and then the possibilities just snowball from one idiot wanting to just be more convenienced by parking in a spot and blocking someone's driveway. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to focus on the incident too much, but it's just like the whole thing about education is that like, I want the behavior to change, and it would be better if you could transfer your moral compass or whatever it is. Not saying I have an amazing one, it just has very specific areas that it cares about and other things it doesn't, and it should. But if you could just transfer that into someone, that would be easier to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do this because it's the wrong thing to do. I'm not going to do it because I realize that this might affect someone else really negatively, just for me to save like half a block of walking. So or walking across the street or something, like, this could have really negative effects on someone else, so I'm just not going to do it. But you can't do that, so there's a lot of punitive measures in the form of fines and tickets and things like that. But the problem is that sometimes that's the only thing that's going to work. That's the only way someone is going to pay for parking or do whatever, or just like choose to park somewhere else. But because we don't have a system in place for things like that sometimes, like this parking thing, because the person gets away with it, it enables them to keep doing it and doing it and doing it because they didn't get caught. From my own experience, I don't know how long I would have kept tagging stuff if I didn't have a big enough repercussion. If the it was bad enough that I was like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. So I mean, there's things like that, right? Like I didn't have the moral compass or whatever, and I have no qualms about tagging city property right now, except for the fact that I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it because this could seriously affect my life, and it already has because of my criminal record, right? So, I mean, things like tagging up someone's individual property and their house and not city property is a whole different thing, and it took me a couple years before I realized I don't do that anymore. I don't do that, but it wasn't because of repercussions. It was because I changed as a person. Anyway, this whole, again, the justice complex thing, like I said, it's very picky as to when it arises. But I just have a really hard time when it comes to some things with people getting away with stuff. Like I said, people not getting their just desserts. It happens in some cases with legal stuff. It happens with personal stuff way more. And it sucks because there's, like, part of me is just that crotchety old man that's like, what are you doing? You're, like, in my driveway, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. Even if it doesn't inconvenience me, there's a part of it that, like, if I owned a house and it was like my property, like it's not like I'm going to be sitting there with a shotgun and a no trespassing sign waiting for someone to put a toe over my property line. That's not it. That doesn't give me any pleasure or anything. But there's just times where I'm like, what are you doing? Like it doesn't inconvenience me. I mean, there's just a possibility of inconvenience like does something to me, because like my neighbor the other day was talking about how he uses my recycling and my garbage all the time because theirs gets full. And I was like, dude, ours gets full sometimes too. And now I'm knowing that it's getting full because of you. So if it's too full, and there was one time that it was like too full that I couldn't put anything more in it and I had to go and take my garbage elsewhere, like that might have been you? Like I don't know. Anyway, like I said, it's just the possibility of inconvenience sometimes, and just like crotchety old man stuff of like, this is mine and this is my property and it's mine and therefore it's not yours, so just back off and don't touch it. Like, I know that's a part of it, my curmudgeon-ness. Yeah, but this other thing is a problem sometimes because it just, I'm still thinking about some of that stuff and just like, man, this person got away with it. This person either doesn't know the truth about the situation and I want to correct them and I never will be able to get through sometimes. Also, just like this person is going to keep doing stuff like this because they haven't learned. And I am not in a position sometimes to make people learn because I'm only willing to go so far, right? Some people just don't learn things with kind words or with common sense or explaining to them in a way that would be, nice and gentle. They'll learn when there's really, really negative consequences. And back in the day, I was happy to assist some people in learning lessons through negative consequences, but I don't do stuff like that anymore. So it's one of those things that just, like I said, it's hard for me to let go sometimes when I'm just like this. I want them to learn. Like I think I can be a very vindictive person, and I like the idea of vengeance, but I'm never in a position where I really feel like I can act it out without putting myself at risk. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to put myself at risk and have my own negative repercussions that I need to worry about, especially when it comes to like legal stuff, right? Like I don't want to put myself in that amount of risk. So then, therefore, I just have to leave it up to the universe and just like let's let karma take care of it. And that's not very satisfying because it takes a long time before you can sit back. Like the best revenge is living your best life or whatever, right? Like that's how I wish I saw things more, and I don't see them that way very, very much. It's hard for me to get into that mode of feeling and thinking and living. And I wish that I had that more. I wish that I was just focused on myself more rather than being focused on what other people are doing or how they're getting away with stuff. Again, because so much of it is just the possibility that will inconvenience me in the future. It's not even that it's inconveniencing me right now. Like, this thing, it didn't inconvenience me at all. They parked behind me. It inconvenienced my roommate. And I just, sometimes I'm very empathetic. And I'm like, if that were me, I would be like flipping, like I would just, whatever. I wanted to call someone, even though it wasn't my vehicle, but I also know from parking enforcement that I can't. I can't call if it's not if I don't own the vehicle, like even though someone else is clearly in the wrong, I can't make the call for someone else. They have to do it, which is just a whole other thing. But it was too late. I mean, parking enforcement, they weren't doing anything at 9 p.m. When they do anything at all. Such small things, but I mean, there's bigger things I've alluded to too that are like personal things or whatever. When somebody wrongs you, and there's no way to right the situation except for just getting on with your life, and that's really difficult for me. Really difficult for me because I want to see justice happen. I don't want to just assume that it happens. Like, oh, karma will catch up with them later. I'm not easygoing in that way. I want to see it. I want to know that they have had a bad thing happen to them. I want to see the balance like occur. If you were talking about karma or whatever, I want to see the universe do that to them. And it just doesn't work that way. And I need to get over that, and I know that. But that's the trouble. Is like I want to know, I want to see, and eventually I let go of those things. They don't happen. Like 90% or more of the time, it doesn't happen where I get to see evidence of somebody, getting what they deserve, and that's why sometimes I watch YouTube videos that are like what are they called? Where there's like compilations of people like celebrating too soon, things like that, like or like fails, like karma fails and stuff. Because I lived through that a little bit of just seeing people just screw up real bad and then immediately get corrected. I like that. It doesn't happen in my own life enough, and I need to get over that. And that's my story about Justice Complex, and I don't know. I don't believe in. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's because I don't believe in karma, or I don't know what it is. I don't. It's hard for me to let karma do the work and feel okay with it, whether I believed in it or not. Because I don't. I mean, I don't believe in it, but I don't disbelieve that everything just gets balanced out by the universe or whatever. That people get what they have coming to them eventually. I don't really believe in that. I think people get away with whatever. I don't think there's any like spiritual thing that's balancing people out. It would be easier if I did. Like I said, I don't actively disbelieve, but I just don't believe that there's a thing. And I need to, in order to just get on with my life more and not feel this frustration and anger and whatever else, I need to figure out a way to just move on quicker. Be like, oh, that's fine. Like, that's whatever. The problem is that it affects me a lot of the time, or has the potential to. That's what I want to correct before it becomes a problem sometimes. I feel like I'm going in a loop, in a circle, and I can't get out of it. Like I said, I know it's something I need to fix. I just really don't know how. See you on another time.